Hello, and welcome back to the Our Favorite Bible Stories podcast. My name is Yudochi, and I am your host. Welcome back. It has been maybe 2 months, maybe 3. Who really knows? Just know that I have not been consistent, which is so interesting because I believe in the last episode I said I would be more consistent. The joke was absolutely on me. Um, yeah, my life has just been really, really interesting, and I didn't really have the energy to record a podcast, but I'm back because I remembered I was supposed to be obedient. So I am here to record another one. It's also crazy because in October, I think, that will be the 1 year anniversary of this podcast, and I've put out 7 episodes. Um, that says a lot about where I am. But yeah, I mean, we thank God for life, for health. We thank Him for all of the stuff that He has to and all that will be doing. Um, yeah, let's get into it. Oh my gosh, we do Rosebud Thorn. I totally forgot about that. But before we do Rosebud Thorn, let's do Song of the Week. Um, I have been listening I found Marantha Gospel, which has the top 40 gospel praise songs, in their opinion. They're missing a lot. But just a great playlist if you grew up in like a old black church or like a Baptist church or anything like that. You'll enjoy it. But guess my songs are no surprise. Well, actually, there is one surprise. 2 of them are Mercy Chinwo. Love her, love her, love her. If she's not on my Spotify Wrapped as #1 artist, I will be upset. I will be angry. Um, but I found one called Oil on My Head. Love that. It's the remix version with Eben, and Eben is phenomenal. I love Eben so much. They've been making bops before people even knew that bops could exist in the Nigerian gospel sphere. Well, actually, that's giving them too much credit because Agatha Moses was there before all of them, and she still is amazing. My sister and I were playing her song while we were driving back from somewhere, and when I tell you we were turning up in the car, that's what Agatha can do. She's still a queen. But Eben, I feel like Eben was one of like the older um pop gospel Christian Nigerian. I don't know what we're gonna call them. But yeah, I remember them when I was in high school, and they're great. So Sinach too. Love Sinach. Is it Sinach or Sanak? I think it's Sinach. Right, because she's Nigerian. The Ch. I think her name is Sinach. Yeah. And then Give Me Chance, also with Mercy Chinwo, and Bidemi Oloaba, Olaoba, Olaoba, Olaoba. Sorry to the Yorubas and whoever's listening to this. If you're Yoruba, I do apologize. It was by those two. Great, great song. Also, nah, I'll leave it at those two. Anyway, Rosebud Thorn. Oh, let me stop playing myself. Every time I go to record this, I'm like, Yudochi, can you keep your voice stable? And it's because I move around a lot. So I just got myself back up so that way I won't have a hard time editing this later, doing my future self a favor. Look at me, so kind. Rosebud Thorn. I'll tell you what a thorn is. I have deluded myself in one of the worst ways possible, and it is no. It's so interesting. I don't know when you will be listening to this, but at the time of this recording, my family and I are supposed to be going somewhere next week. I have made the very, very dumb decision to sew a dress for that, an African style dress. As someone who has not sewed since she was like 10, how do you think it's going? Not well at all. I almost broke the sewing machine. I'm just trying to make a bustier, and that's not working. We'll see what happens. This will very soon not be my issue anymore, either because I give up or because I make the simplest dress known to man. I don't know which one it's gonna be. I'm fine with either. Um, yeah, so that's super that's super fun. So that's my thorn. My rose. This sounds so small, but I promise you. I bought salmon, fresh salmon. And I'm so excited to have it for dinner tonight. I saved it. I was like, what day is going to be salmon day? And it's today. And I am ecstatic. Salmon is delicious, and I will hear no other words about it. Salmon is phenomenal, and I will be air frying it. If you've never air fried salmon, get on it. It changes the game. It truly does, and it is delicious. It's if you've never had that sushi bake, um, that's great as well. The sushi bake. Have you never had like a salmon rice bowl? If you don't like fish, well, if you're allergic, that's fine. But if you don't like fish on principle, get over it. Although I actually can't say that because I hate basically every type of seafood that is not fish. Still get over it. Salmon's phenomenal. Actually, I take that back. See, this is why my episodes are like 5 hours long. I take that back. I only like salmon and potentially catfish and whatever they make fish sticks out of. Not all fish sticks though. Actually, I take that back. I don't like fish sticks. But I do love Popeye's fish sandwich. It was really good. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yay, salmon. A rose. I feel like God's been confirming a lot of things to me as of recent. Scary but nice. So that will be my rose. Okay, let's get into the story. I'm trying to make this 45 minutes. We'll see. God be with me. Speaking of the Lord, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everything you've done. We thank you for allowing me to come to this moment where I'm going to be talking about Elijah, having a great old time discussing his story, or the second part of his story. I ask that you just be with me. I ask that you will guide my heart, guide my mind, guide the words that are coming out of my mouth, that it will not be from my own intelligence or my own thoughts or my own perspective, but instead that it will be what you want to say in this moment, God, that you, there would be no me, but all of you, that you would hide me behind your cross, that this word will encourage somebody, that it will help somebody in the situation they're going through, that it will bring them back to you, whatever it is, whatever somebody needs to get from this podcast, may they get it. And may you receive the praise, honor, glory, adoration from our lives, both now and forevermore. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. Let's talk about Elijah. So, if you missed last week's last episode, let's just call it that. You should go watch it. And not just, or I guess go listen to it, not just because it's my podcast, but also because it has a lot of really crucial information that I will not be going over again in this episode. All you need to know is that the kings of Israel were really, really evil. It started with some guy named Jeroboam. You should really go listen to it though, because it goes in depth about how Israel got to the place that they are in when we meet Elijah. Yeah, there was a lot. There was a build up. So go listen to it. But basically there's a king named Ahaz, and he was, oh, that's a lie. See, I said Ahaz, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. His name was Ahab. And he was evil, evil, evil. So God told Elijah to tell Ahab that there was going to be a drought. There would be no rain for a certain amount of years. And Ahab was like, yeah, right. And just as God said through Elijah, there was no rain. And in the last episode, we talked about how Elijah was sustained during that time. But now, in this episode, we will be talking about one of the classic stories, Elijah and the Prophets of Baal, and how basically God ends this drought. Spoiler alert, how God ends the drought. So we pick up with Elijah after he was living with a widow. Once again, that's in the last episode as well. Go listen to that. He was living with a widow while the rest of Israel, and I guess some of the neighboring places, were experiencing the drought. And so, the story also is taking place in 1 Kings chapter 18. Yeah. 1 Kings 18, starting at verse 1. So after a long time, in the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah, go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. So this would be a big thing, because Ahab had been looking for Elijah. He had been looking for Elijah because he was like, how dare you pronounce a drought on my kingdom? Absolutely not. So he was looking for Elijah. And so God is basically telling Elijah, go to Ahab, it's time. If I were Elijah, I'd be a little, shaken, but, he was prepared for this. He was built for this. So he goes, and as he was going, he meets Obadiah. Obadiah was King Ahab's palace administrator. So basically, he was like helping to run things. Obadiah was also a devout Jew. And because of that, he had hidden prophets of the Lord. He hid them in caves and was bringing them food and water. So he was basically sustaining the prophets. And so Elijah is walking, and Obadiah was sent on a mission from Ahab. So as Obadiah is walking, Elijah meets him. And Obadiah was like, I know that ain't you. Is that Elijah? Is that you? And Elijah was like, sure is, take me to Ahab. And Obadiah was like, not a chance. Not a chance. I'm not taking you to Ahab. Because I love the way that Obadiah says this. Starting at verse 9, he's like, what have I done wrong that you are handing your servant over to Ahab to be put to death? As surely as the Lord your God lives, there is not a nation or kingdom where my master has not sent someone to look for you. And then skipping down. But now you tell me to go to my master and say Elijah's here. I don't know where the Spirit of the Lord may carry you when I leave you. If I go and tell Ahab and he doesn't find you, he will kill me. And he's basically saying, why? He's like, do you hate me? He said, am I your enemy? And honestly, Obadiah had the right of it. I do agree with that, because this had been 3 years of, once again, Ahab looking for Elijah. Looking for him because he was upset at the drought. So if Obadiah were to go and run back and say, oh, Elijah's here, and he's not there when he gets back, because God has been known to whisk people away. He has been known to do that. And so Obadiah was like, don't play me, please. And he also was like, I've been hiding, in case you didn't know this, I've been hiding the other prophets. He's like, I'm a good one. I'm one of the good ones. Do not send me to death. Don't make me do that. And Elijah was like, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna be right here. Go get him. And so Obadiah did exactly that. I do want to pause here because I'm just so confused by Ahab. So, small backstory to explain my point here. Ahab was married to Jezebel. I'm sure we've all heard of Jezebel, blah, blah, blah. But she was real evil. And she was the one that basically prompted Ahab to do a lot of his evil things. So it's less that Ahab himself was evil, it's that he was a coward and couldn't stand up to his wife. That's his business. But what's the name of it? Oh, it is Baal, yeah. Baal was known as the god of weather. And so in God telling Elijah to pronounce a drought, it is like directly challenging their belief in Baal. Because if Baal was real, then it shouldn't matter that Elijah pronounced a drought. Water would still come, as he was considered the god of weather. So I am just confused, because looking at my time, it's been 3 years since y'all have seen water from the sky. You said that Baal's a god of weather. So if he really was, then why wouldn't he fix it? And if he's not fixing it, if the word of the Lord is standing, why are you still worshiping Baal? And why are you looking for Elijah? Because that's basically confirming that the God he serves is the true God. Because when he pronounced it at the request of God, rain stopped. Yeah, your God couldn't do nothing about it. That's confusing to me. So, like, why is your anger directed at Elijah and not at Jezebel, your wife, or at all the prophets who've been taking your money and sacrificing whatever and their God can't do a single thing about it? That's confusing to me. I don't know how we got here. Like, how is he upset at Elijah? This is just proof that Baal isn't real. That does, I just don't get it. I really don't. Cause like the steps you have to go through to get to that conclusion that Elijah is at fault for this. I mean, technically he is, but like you skipped over so many necessary details to get to being angry at Elijah. And it's not like those kings did not know that God was the true God, because whenever they were in trouble for generations, they'd be like, oh God, please save us. And he would, and then they would go back to what they were doing. So, like, it's not like y'all don't know God. Anyway, back to the story. Obadiah goes to meet Ahab, and Ahab goes to meet Elijah. See? Verse 17, when he saw Elijah, he said to him, is that you troubler of Israel? No, you're the troubler. No, it's you, because it's your sin that has caused all of this. And that's what Elijah popped right back. He said, I have not made trouble for Israel, but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and have followed the Baals. And not one lie was told. Because if y'all hadn't been messing up, there would be no job. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be knocking at Ahab's door. Hello, tear this down. Do you see my cow? Do you see it emaciated because there's no water? You see that corn? Yeah, there is no corn. There's no water. Hello? You're out here ruining stuff for us. Get it together. They should have said that, because they have been known to overthrow kings. They could have done it. That's my 2 cents. They weren't really about that life though. That's their business. Anyway, so Elijah was like, summon everybody from Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal, and the one of the other goddess. And they're basically like, we're gonna have a competition. This is a really well-known story. I'm sure several people know this, but if you don't, basically what happens is Elijah challenges the prophets of Baal to a competition, saying, let's get 2 bulls and let's lay them on an altar. Let's both pray to our gods in the way that we do, and whichever bull is, or whichever god sends fire from the heavens onto the sacrificial bull, is the true God. And and before this is a good one. Before he challenges them to the competition, Elijah says, how long will you waver between 2 opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal is God, follow him. So this is basically a competition to see who is the real God. The real God will actually do what he said he would do. And the prophets of Baal were like, we got you. They agreed to it. So they're putting their confidence behind their God, saying that, yes, this is a God that will answer by fire, which is so confusing to me once again, because like, when has he ever done that? like, I don't know. I can bet on God because God's done it all. What has your God done? Like, have you seen him answer by fire before? So why would you agree to a competition if you've never seen your God do that? Now, that don't make no sense. I mean, my God has a history of setting several things on fire. The burning bush, that was him. That was him. I'm sure he's had some other stuff, but that was him. Like, we have a track record. Like Elijah put that together because he knew that he could do it. Like, why did the prophets of Baal agree if they've never seen that happen? Because Baal isn't real. Just food for thought. Like, that. Prophets of Baal were confusing me. I don't get them. Like, how were you also still worshiping Baal if the other God, the true God, says there's going to be a drought and then he doesn't stop it? Like, I don't get that. Especially if you're saying he's the God of weather. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand how they were still following him. And there's a part of me is like, well, there's some times where our God, or I don't know about y'all, my God, amen, how like sometimes he may not answer things in the way that we want him to. It's like, would that be the same thing? And I'm gonna say no, because I think while God does not always answer us or do exactly what we want him to, he has said his spirit will go with us. And I think that there is a certain sense of comfort and joy that can come from God, even, excuse me, in the midst of difficult circumstances, that is like a proof of his presence. Editor Eudochi here. I also want to say that there are several points in the Bible where God asks people to test him. It's like, if you think I'm telling the truth, test me. Do what I said, do what I tell you to do, be obedient, and then see the final results. Literally in Malachi, when people are talking about tithes and offering, there's a verse that says, bring ye all the tithes to the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me, thus says the Lord, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, there will not be room enough to receive it. So God has actively asked us, like, test him, try him out and see if he's real. To me, that means he's willing to put weight behind his name, weight behind his actions, weight behind his character. I just don't believe, especially if you have faith. Like, the prophets of Baal aren't mathing to me. They're really not. Anyway, yeah. So exactly what I said, verse 24. Um, then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, the God who answers by fire. He is God. And so Elijah and the prophets of Baal do exactly that. Oh, and the people also said, what you say is good. So they're agreeing. They're like, okay, whoever answers by fire is the true God. We agree to that. That's a good competition. That's a good basis. And so Elijah was like, y'all can go first. Go ahead, choose your bull and prepare it. And he was like, call on the name of your God. Don't light the sacrifice. And let's see Baal call down fire. And I'm going to read this straight from the Bible because I just think it's so funny the way that Elisha was trolling them. So they took the bull given them and prepared it. This is the NIV version. I wish I had the NKJV, but we'll settle for Niv. And the prophets of Baal called on the name of Baal from morning till noon. Baal, answer us, they shouted, but there was no response. No one answered. The Bible's so matter of fact. She's like, there was no response. There was no answer. And they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. Shout louder, he said. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. Too good. That is too good. As Christians, we should not be insulting people, but these are A-level insults. When he said he must be traveling, how disrespectful. How rude. How absolutely rude. And they responded to that because they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords. Ooh, trigger warning, I guess. Slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom. Oh my gosh. Until their blood flowed. That's so disgusting. Midday passed, and they continued their frantic prophesying until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. I don't have to say anything else. The Bible said what it said. The prophets of Baal, from morning to evening. This is Editor Eudochi with the trigger warning. If you are sensitive to topics of self-harm, please skip to 25:15. We're screaming and crying and I also have this statement to say. I don't know why their practices were so grotesque. Like, that's one thing I don't understand about, like, pagan traditions at this time. Like, what are you doing sacrificing your child? Like, what? How does that make sense? If all of you sacrifice your children, how is the nation, how are y'all supposed to continue to multiply? Editor Eudochi here. This is, of course, besides the very obvious fact that we should not murder, and we should not be killing anybody. But from a logical standpoint, that makes no sense. From a logical standpoint, don't do it, but it also makes no sense. I don't get that. I don't I don't understand. Like, what do you gain by slashing yourself? I don't understand. I will put a trigger warning before this section in case and tell y'all where to skip to if you don't want to listen to this. But like, how does that make sense? Like, how does that make sense? I don't get it. I really don't. And it didn't work. As the Bible said, no one paid attention. No one paid attention. And so, verse 30, then Elijah said to all the people, come here to me. They came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. You see what I'm talking about? Who tore it down? I'm sure it says it in somewhere. I'm pretty sure in the episode before this, you'll see who tore it down. I think it may have been Jeroboam. It may have been Jeroboam. You know what? Actually, let me not pressure future Yudochi, but future Yudochi, if you're listening to this, pause this and go find out who did it. Okay? If the Bible says. Thank you. Go to a commentary. Thanks. Editor Yudochi here. So, I don't think we know who tore down that altar. All we know, well, from the sources I looked at, all we know is that there once was an altar at Mount Carmel that in some way, shape, or form was destroyed. Verse 31, Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes descended from Jacob, period, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, your name shall be Israel. Talk about it. With the stones, he built an altar in the name of the Lord exactly, and he dug a trench around it large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. A seah is 24 pounds. Man, that's like right? 2 seahs. That's like a small child. I think I weighed that much like first, second grade. Dang. I was not playing around. Verse 33. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, fill 4 large jars with water and pour it on the offering and on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a third time, he ordered, and they did it a third time. The water ran down around the altar and even filled the trench. I do have a question about this, because I thought there was a drought, so where'd he get the water from? That's one thing I've always been confused about. If future Yudochi has an answer, she'll put it in right here. Like, I genuinely do not know where they got that water from. Like, did the water appear because God had a point to prove? Maybe. Or maybe Elijah brought the water with him because when he was at the widow's house, he wasn't lacking for anything. And they were making cakes daily, so they had to have had some water. Guess who? Editor Yudochi. So maybe, according to what I looked at, it's possible that the people had water, but just not a lot of it. So they were struggling, but they could still do like basic things. Another place said that Mount Carmel is close to the Mediterranean Sea, so maybe that place had water. But I'm confused because if they had water, why were they complaining so much? So I don't know how much I believe either of those sources, but that is a potential answer. Take it or leave it. Where'd they get the water from? I don't know. But what I do know is that there was water. And it was poured onto the sacrifice. Basically saying that, like, not only, gosh, there's a bug. Not only do I have confidence in my God's ability to send down fire, I'm gonna make it even harder. Y'all had problems just doing the bare minimum. I'm gonna make it even harder. So y'all can really know who's running stuff around here. And that's what Elijah did. He poured water, even to the point where the trench surrounding the sacrifice was full of water. So then Elijah says, 36, at the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. What a prayer. And I want to talk about this because I guess a few minutes I had mentioned how sometimes it could feel like God doesn't answer us, or like we may be scared to like put God's name to the test, or basically what I said before about trying something and it not working, I want to clarify that Elijah had this set up because God told him to. Remember, at the beginning of 18, after a long time, the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. Like, God told Elijah, put my name to the test. Let me show you what I can do. And let me show them what I can do, them being the children of Israel at that time. So I do want to just clarify that. Elijah was doing this because God told him to. It was not for ego. It wasn't to puff himself up. It wasn't to show I'm so close to God. It wasn't for any of that. It was because God told him to. Lest some of y'all go ahead and start doing crazy stuff in the name of quote unquote faith, and God never told you to do it. Okay, I'm not advocating for that. But I'm not saying God can't come through for you. He can. He's a merciful, kind God, but don't be dumb. There's a verse that says, one, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Basically saying, don't take advantage of God's goodness. Just because he's good does not mean you should start messing up and say, oh, God will forgive me. No. He is there for the brokenhearted and binds their wounds, and he is there for those who are suffering, but don't take advantage. Okay? If you know better, do better. And if you can't do better, pray to God to help him. Pray to God so he can help you do better. There's another verse I want to say. Test not the Lord, put not the Lord your God to the test. I don't remember. But yeah, don't try this because let me bring up a great example. There's a time, it was either with Peter or Paul. Yudochi will insert what this is here. Future Yudochi. Sorry, girl. I got you working on this episode. I do apologize. Anyway, I think it was Peter. It was Peter. This is editor Yudochi. You already know. And if you want to read more, it's in Acts 8, chapter 9 to 25. Where Peter was doing a bunch of miracles, and there was this guy that came up and was like, I also want to do miracles. Tell me how. He's like, I will pay you money to do miracles. And they were like, it don't work that way, bub. It don't work that way. Remove yourself. And there was another time where this guy saw Paul casting out demons. And, this is so disrespectful. And the guy was like, okay, let me do a little something. And he went and tried to cast out a demon. And the demon looked at him and said, I know Paul and I know Jesus. Who the heck are you? And then he pounced on him. And he shook him so violently that he was naked. And then he had to run away. And I was like, see, this is why you don't start getting into fights that you're not ready for. Okay? No one told that guy to do that. He was doing it for ego's sake and not because the Lord told him to. So let's make sure that we're being motivated by the right spirit when we do things. Don't go up somewhere and start doing dumb stuff and say, oh, well, God did it for Elijah. Okay, but God told Elijah to do it. Okay? Let's use our number 6. Let's use our sense. Let's use wisdom and discernment. Go read Proverbs if you need to. Proverbs has all of that stuff in there. But let's be smart. Anyway, after Elijah says this prayer is like basically show yourself as God. Show everybody here that you are God. Editor Yudochi here. The audio got weird. So he brought up the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, who for the most part trusted God. Though some of them did some stuff we don't approve of. Looking at you, Abraham and Isaac, and look, they all did something. But Abraham, God told Abraham to leave his place and he lived in tents for his whole entire life, and God basically promised him that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand near the sea. And Abraham was waiting for that promise. He was waiting a long, long time before he got Isaac. Isaac also was basically, he entrusted God to find his spouse. And that's exactly what happened. And I'll have to say Deborah. That's not her name. Rebecca. He married Rebecca after his servant went and found her. And if you read that story, we should do that story. But if you read that story, it was basically super divinely orchestrated. How the servant met Rebecca and how Rebecca ended up coming with him to marry Isaac. And listen, Israel was Jacob, who became Israel, he was living on a promise, okay? He was living on broken promises, and then the Lord came and restored. What a life that man had. But these are all people that basically showcase the character of God. He made promises to them and he stuck by them. God stuck by his promises, proving or put which allows weight to be put on his name. It's like it's not just a God who's been here for a few centuries or stuff like that. Like this is a God that is known to our ancestors and has consistently come through for us. Has consistently shown his might and his power. That is the God that we are believing will answer us by fire. And so, right after Elijah prayed that, verse 38, then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. This is crazy because remember, we use water to put out fires. The fire consumed the water that was in the trench. It consumed absolutely everything. Oh my gosh, stop. The other time that God answered by fire was with Gideon. I did an episode on Gideon. Great, great episode. You should listen to that one as well. Um, when Gideon also put a sacrifice and God consumed everything, or the angel of the Lord, it was God. God consumed everything. We're saying the exact same thing. Like it's an example of how God does not do his stuff halfway. He doesn't just like dip his toe and it's like, okay, we're done. He does it fully. He went and he ate up everything. I never realized the soil. The soil that was there, it caught strays as well. It was gone. It was burnt by the fire. Hello? He left nothing. A complete God. And when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." Basically, they fell on their faces. They knelt before Him and said, "Oh, oh, you're the real deal," which they already knew. But I think it's also special when God shows up for you personally or like shows up for you in your situation. And he did that. He was like, "I'm tired of y'all. Let's get some truth in here." And I think that coupled with the drought, it's like these are two examples that go hand in hand in proving and showcasing God's character. So y'all better be serious and get your act together. So Elijah said, "Round up the prophets of Baal," and they killed them, which is kind of sad. I still struggle with the the violence that is shown in the Bible, but they were killed. And so Elijah said to Ahab, "Go eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain." This is also so amazing, is that God showed himself as God and then provided for the people. Because the drought was not just affecting Ahab and his raggedy self, it was impacting all of Israel. I also do want to say, while Ahab was the main person, Israel also was not showing up in the way they were supposed to, or most of Israel was not, which is why God did this. But he could have been like, "Serves y'all right. I told y'all I was a real God. Y'all didn't want to listen to me. Bye then. No one's getting water. Okay? Go go back to your things and serve Baal since y'all want to serve him so badly." He could have done all of that. And this is, I'm not gonna lie. There is a version of me that would also do that. But in his kindness, in his compassion, in his care, after proving he was really God, he was like, "Okay, here's your teddy bear. Here's your rain. Here's the rain y'all were desperately seeking. Go get your animals, go get your crops. Here you go." So Ahab went off to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Mount Carmel and bent down to the ground and put his face between his knees. And so he kept doing this until he did it 7 times until he heard the rain, or until his assistant can we call him assistant? What are we gonna call this man? His servant, okay. Till his servant said there was a small cloud that was coming. And then the Spirit of the Lord fell on Elijah and he ran. He basically ran back, I guess, to the center point or to the main part of Israel. And he even outran Ahab, who was on a chariot. He outran him. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I actually don't really know why that was there. Yeah, what an interesting part. I actually don't really know why the power of the Lord fell on Elijah at that point. Maybe as like another testament. Maybe it was like an excitement. Maybe it was like another show for Ahab. Yudochi, look at a commentary and put it in here. I'm sorry, girl, I got you working. Anyway. Not the anyway. So I looked at the Blue Letter Bible commentary, and they're saying that this happened because Ahab saw Elijah and didn't give him a ride on his chariot, so he ran before him. Then another commentary said we have no idea why this happened. I'm not sure the answer's super clear, but we know that it did occur and that it was important enough for God to include it. Maybe it was relevant to the people of the time. Maybe it meant something. Maybe this is a by and by question where we're up in heaven partying and like, so God, why was Elijah running? Why'd you give him supernatural strength to run? Who knows? I know that I do not know. And I was gonna stop, but I am gonna talk about this second portion, or the first part of chapter 19, where it says, Now Ahab told Jezebel everything Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. And so, let's take a poll. If you were Jezebel and you saw your prophet get utterly demolished, not your prophet, your God get utterly demolished, he got ate up in a fight, what would you do? Because there is a part of, well, not a part of me, because I don't worship Baal. I do understand why she got upset, but I don't as well. Because, girly, this is proof that your God is not a thing. Isn't it time to get off your high horse and just agree to worship the God of Israel? Isn't this your time to tell Ahab, okay, let's cut the nonsense. Obviously, their God has won. Even if you're mad about it, obviously, the God of Elijah has won. Let's relax. But that's not her response. She's like a double down person, where even though she's wrong, she gonna double down on it. Gotta be careful of people like that. Because they're willing to destroy everything around them so that way they can feel powerful, so they can show their anger. Like, what are you gaining? Your prophets are gone. Your God didn't. Like, why aren't you scared that Baal didn't do anything? Like, why is your concern? Like, why do they keep making their concern Elijah? I don't get that. Meanwhile, his God is one that brought back water. So that way y'all can live in the peace that you want to as king and queen. It's not like people gonna come and attack you or what. Oh no, they could. But like you're living in relative luxury. What do you gain? Like what else do you want? At least cut your losses and just move on. What are you gaining? Anyway, she didn't do that. um And she said, May the gods deal with what gods, girly? What gods are you talking about? The one that just got ate up? Weirdo. Anyway, Jezebel sent a message to Elijah saying, May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. She's so unserious, girl. What you gonna do? This is the same God that kept Elijah for 3 years. Girl, be serious. Anyway, Elijah ran away. Elijah was afraid and he ran away, which I find so fascinating because, and I think it's a human thing as well, because he just saw some of the biggest miracles that God could put on. He saw himself be sustained through a widow for 3 years. He saw God send down fire and absolutely demolish everything around it, the soil and the water, after drenching the sacrifice. And he saw him just run at supernatural speed. Like the power of the Lord fell on him and he was outrunning a chariot. That's like a human being outrun. Well, they weren't that fast, but our equivalent is like a Lamborghini and a human is running faster than it at full speed. So then how did that not translate to this moment? There's a part of me that feels like Elijah was like, okay, this is the time. Finally, they're going to stop their nonsense. We're all going to be good. So when Jezebel did what she did by saying, I'm gonna try to fight you. I'm gonna try to find you and kill you. I assume it makes sense for him to be afraid. It's confused. It's hard because once again he just experienced all of these miracles, but it's very, very human reaction, especially when it seems like, if of course this is just my conjecture, that he probably had a really specific belief about what would happen after this huge miracle. So the fact that that didn't come about, like, oh, whoa, what's going on? Also, Ahab, stand up. Ahab, get up. Ahab, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. What do you like about the ground so much? What is there for you? What is on the ground that you want to stay there? What is it? Let us know. Because you witnessed what God did. God could have told them to take you and slaughter you like they did the prophets, but he didn't. So, why don't you stop Jezebel? I don't get that. You're king. You witnessed all of this stuff and you're just going to let Jezebel send a messenger to go destroy Elijah? After Elijah sent back, after Elijah told you that water was going to come, after your prophets got ate up? Confusion, confusion, confusion. Get up. Everybody in the story needs to get up. Elijah ran away though. And he was like, I want to die. There's nothing here for me. I'm so sad. And this is so funny to me. You know, this is really interesting. Why do I feel like I did an episode on this? Ravens fed him. Oh my gosh. It's because Elijah did that before. I was like, why does it sound so familiar to me? It's because before, when Elijah ran away the first time, he also was like, I'm tired of this. Leave me alone. Please, I don't want to do anymore. And ravens fed him. I was like, why does this sound so familiar to me? And basically the same thing happened here where Elijah was like, I'm done. And an angel of the Lord, well, God basically put him to a deep sleep. Was like, take a nap. You've done a lot. Take a rest. Some of y'all need to hear that. Some of y'all need to take a nap. Some of you are getting 3 hours of sleep a night. I don't mean to call anybody out, but some of you are. Not me. I get 5 hours. I need to sleep more. But some of y'all need to sleep more. Some of y'all need to take a rest. There are so many important things that your body does during sleep. It helps with your immune function. It helps you consolidate memories. Sleep is there for a reason. There's a reason that God created sleep and rest. And our world doesn't prioritize that. And I also think in some of the spaces that do talk about it, they don't acknowledge all of the barriers that can come when you're trying to get a good night's sleep. I understand. And it's not just like, oh, they're scrolling on social media. Sometimes you scroll on social media because you're trying to numb your feelings, or this is the only fun time you have during the day, or there's different reasons. But I would, if you are having difficulties with your sleep, with having the ability to sleep, I would definitely pray about it, because we're supposed to be resting, and I don't think it's good for us to not rest when we need it. And so God put him into a deep sleep. He was like, go to sleep, sir. You're doing too much. And then when he woke up, the angel of the Lord touched him and said, get up and eat. He looked around, and there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then lay down again. And then the angel of the Lord said the same thing. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by the food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. There he went to a cave and spent the night. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to talk about the second half, but I remember I was at church and there was this sermon. A sermon was preached about this particular part. And the pastor said this phrase, and I agree with him. Sometimes you just need a nap and a sandwich. Like when you're upset, ask yourself, have I slept? Have I eaten? Like sometimes you just need to take a quick little power nap. There's some research that power naps may not work. But sometimes you just need to take a rest and eat a sandwich. Go get some food. Have you eaten today? Like, let's take care of the basic stuff before we start to assume it's or before we start to despair. Take a nap, go eat some food. The basics. And it's also okay if you are in this despair mode, because God wasn't like, Elijah, get up. Didn't I just tell you? Didn't you just do this? What are you doing? He was like, I understand. You're tired. Go to sleep. I know. You're hungry. The angel Lord was like, you need to eat because there's a lot more for you to do. So eat that bread. And he gave him water. So once again, about God meeting more than just like our physical, or more than just like our spiritual need. He can meet our physical needs as well. He can see everything that we need and answer. Because that's just what he do. Love that. So that's the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal. Great story. Just for God showing up. I think oftentimes when we're asked to do things, it can seem so hard and so difficult. Like, oh, is he really going to? Because I could imagine it's stressful to go up and challenge the king, challenge the prophets. And there's 450, and it's just you by yourself, and to then put water on it, make it even more difficult, and then still trust that God will come through. It's hard, but I think one thing that has given me comfort, and I hope gives you comfort, is that God would not call you to a place if he has not equipped you with the ability to prosper there, or if he has not, or if he is not raising up people to help you. God's not mean, and he's not nasty or rude. He doesn't delight in our pain, or he doesn't delight when we have difficulties and struggles. And so there are some struggles, there's some pain, some discomfort, some things that we go through that we may never know on this side of glory. I have lots of questions. I have lots of questions about the stuff that I've been through, the things that I've seen, of the events that have happened to me. But through them all, I'm still assured that God will not take me somewhere, one, to just leave me, or to have me suffer there just for suffering's sake. Everything that we do has a purpose. There is a reason. There is something that God has for us there. Yeah, so be encouraged that God is providing. A great example of that is Abraham and sacrificing Isaac. Or when God told him to sacrifice Isaac. We should talk about that because that's another loaded one. But yeah, trust that if God calls you, he has equipped you with the ability to walk into whatever season, or to walk into whatever he has for you and prosper there. Yeah. Okay, well, that was Elijah. This was 1 Kings chapter 18, and I guess the first half of 19, 1 to 9. All right, y'all. Hope y'all have a blessed rest of your day. Bye.